I want to talk because we're in Twitter season here. We're in Twitter season. And it's something we talked about the other day. I was on a different show, and how disappointing it is that the fans leave the game. Now, I understand program's been bad. They've had a lot of trauma, blah, 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 blah. That's all I hear. It's dumb. I'm tired of people saying that, oh, well, win some games and then we'll come. We'll come for the bigger games. It was just FIU. Bullcrap. You think Oregon wasn't thankful that they had 85,000 playing Idaho, a team who Indiana, with the roster they had last year, beat by 40? Like that, or maybe that was 2 years ago, whenever it was.
Either way, yeah.
Like the last two seasons of Indiana football have been disgraceful. They even beat Idaho by a zillion. Idaho goes in to Oregon and has them on the ropes. It's just Idaho. You're the number 3 team in the country. That stadium is filled to the brim until the last snap of the game. And you watch, it's different standards of football, I understand. But you watch all these games, all these teams that are trying to do something different, especially teams in a position like Indiana that, if we want to talk about, we can talk about all kinds of things, right? We can talk about the wide, big picture. If the Big Ten continues to do what they're doing, the SEC continues to do what they're doing, we're moving to 2 super conferences. This is what fans need to understand. Indiana, whether they like it or not, is on the outside looking in when you talk about 2 super conferences and staying in one of those conferences. Because money comes from football. Basketball is nice. It's fun. People like it, especially here, but it's not what drives the TV contracts. And when Indiana doesn't put a product on the field that brings in money, they start getting farther and farther down the list of priority for the Big Ten Conference. So now let's go back to what we saw on Saturday. You haven't had a winning team in 2 years. You have a brand new coach. You're winning the game comfortably. That in itself, why can we not enjoy that? You paid for the seats. The stadium was pretty full in the first half. You paid to go to the game. Just stay. That's simple. I'm not asking you to catch a pass, right? Just sit in the seat. We don't even have to talk about them knowing how to cheer or being loud or anything like that. Just sit in the seat. It's the perception. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, as a player, coming out in the second half and seeing it empty is about as demoralizing as you can. Like, you cannot imagine.
Weird, man. It is weird.
Cannot imagine how demoralizing that is after you just had a halftime speech. You're talking about all these adjustments. You're fired up. You cannot wait to play again. And the stadium is 40% as full as it was. You cannot imagine how demoralizing that is for a player. Now, we talked about the future of the Big Ten Conference. That's all in recruiting, right? Transfer portal makes it a lot easier to get new guys, but a program that's going to be sustained for long term and longevity has really good high school recruiting classes. Like the University of Miami had the best transfer portal class. They talk about all these transfers. But when you look at the last 2 years, they went into Florida and won by 40. You look at the last 2 years, they've had top 5 high school recruiting classes too. So you think about these high school kids that Indiana works really hard to get to the game. Really hard to get to the game. You're Joe Schmo. You're watching Indiana. You call yourself a fan. You buy tickets to the game. You sit there in the first half. You leave at halftime. Indiana wins. You don't think anything of it. But there's some recruit. Who knows? There's 4-star recruits at those things all the time. This Julian Lewis kid who everybody's all excited about, if he's at the game, he stays for the whole game, whether you stay or not. So he sees what happens in the second half. He sees how demoralizing, and I'm going to continue to use that word because that's exactly what it is, that stadium is in the second half. It shows that fans are not invested. You can tweet at these recruits. You can act all excited. When things are going bad, they're so quick to point the finger. Oh, the coach sucks. The quarterback sucks. We can't block. We blah, 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 blah. But then when it's time to do one little thing, your only job as a fan is to sit in the stands. Sit there. You don't have to be loud at all. Usually it's loud because of a couple people in each section. That stadium is built to be loud, and it's been loud when there's 1,000 people in there, and I know that because we played Ohio State and had an onside kick to tie the game, and there's 1,000 people in the stands. It's about as loud as I ever heard it. So I know it gets loud. All we need these people to do is sit there. And I had a really hard time on Twitter because I've called it out a little bit, and I think there's some former players that were also calling it out a little bit. But it's amazing to me how quick fans are to point the finger. Again, coach sucks, quarterback sucks, blah, blah, quarter program, can't do anything, we'll never win. But then as soon as it's time to look themselves in the mirror and say, wait, maybe I can actually help the program in a much bigger way than I understand and can comprehend, a million excuses. It's just FIU. Well, the program's been terrible. We're basketball fans. Look at basketball. Or think about 2020. We won 4 games. Now talk to me in week 5. No, there's recruits at every game. It doesn't take long. This is
the whole program sucks thing doesn't make sense to me because I feel like you could say that per regime. If you're basing that off of what happened in the Tom Allen era, that's done. Yes, it happened, but that has nothing to do with what's going on now with the program.
Nothing. And with the transfer portal, you can become a prominent program in what feels like 10 seconds. So this isn't something that, oh, well, just wait. It's a long, I think somebody tweeted at me, it's a long with 10 O's process. No, it isn't. Just buy the ticket, sit on the bleacher for 3 hours. They've got good food. They've got beer in there.
And they've really improved I know I haven't been there myself yet. They've added a lot of new stuff.
Oh my God. The game day experience is 1 million times better than it was even when I was there. You've got a beautiful stadium in a beautiful part of the country. You're watching one of maybe the best or second best conference football at the college level every week, week in, week out. And you've got a program that can do some unbelievable things. They've been given so many resources internally to turn that thing into a real program. I know I'm hesitant to say powerhouse because who knows, but they have so many resources, and Bloomington is so easy to recruit to. It's so easy. And fans don't understand how much value they have on game day. There are usually 6 Saturdays. You call yourself a fan.
This year
we got lucky. We got 8 Saturdays. That is 24 hours for an entire year that you get to sit in the stadium and cheer on the Hoosiers. How hard is that, John? That is not very hard.
I've never been to a game unless the team, and I'm not even just talking about Indiana, but any game, any sporting event that I attend, the only time that I ever leave early is if the team I'm cheering for is getting their ass kicked and it's over. If you're up, I don't understand the reason to leave early.
I think that when do you leave? I'm a big Miami.
Definitely not at halftime. That's the biggest problem with Indiana. Most people leave, win or lose, some point during the fourth quarter or the second half, whatever sport you're watching. That's when most people, I feel like, typically leave a game if you don't stay the whole time.
I've never – hold on.
Shout out to Mitchell's dog, Frank, who is getting a little rambunctious in the background.
I think he's listening to me get a little excited. And I feel like I'm yelling a little bit, but it's so frustrating. We've done this for so long, and this is a brand new landscape of college football. Everything's going to happen so quickly that fans need to understand that they better change quickly too. Because if you don't, we're going to be in the MAC. That's a fact. Enjoy your time in the Big Ten now. You want to continue to leave. You want to continue to not support the program. You want to continue to not help recruiting. You want to continue to not be loud and make Indiana a hard place to play because it can be. We're tricky. We're a team not a lot of other Big Ten teams want to play. Whether you want to believe it or not, you can say the program hasn't been good. I know
that argument, if someone's making that argument, I know I said it earlier, that shouldn't count for anything.
Yeah, it's disgusting. But if you like doing all this, If you like playing Ohio State, if you like thinking we're, you get to pound your chest, we're a Big Ten team in the new super conference. If you like that, you better start coming to the game because things can happen really quickly. As soon as you stop providing, what have you done for me lately? And again, that's all football. Nobody cares about basketball when it comes to money and TV contracts. Basketball don't make no money. It's all football. You better start coming to the game. You better start staying. You better start being loud because it matters way more than you think. And I feel like I'm at wit's end with it, man. It's a new era of college football, and we better get with the times.
And we'll see. I don't really know what to expect from a Friday night in Bloomington against an FCS team that's terrible. I'd like to think students will show out again, especially if the weather's nice. Everyone else, I guess it's up in the air. But the first telltale sign on if things really begin to improve, I feel like, will be after the UCLA result. And again, the opponent after that is Charlotte. It's not anybody to write home about. But if you get that win on the road in Los Angeles, you have reason to think this could be a fairly special season. I'd love to see what the crowds look like after that.
Agree. Friday nights are hard. Tom Allen said a lot of stuff. One of the smartest things he ever said is that's high school night. And I'm going to backtrack the last 7 minutes of me yelling at you, the listener, to go to the game. Friday nights are hard, and it's so stupid that they play football on Friday. The reason they play
football,
it's all
TV thing. It's all TV.
It's money. It goes back to I backtracked a little to then hit you again. We have Friday night games because there's so much money in TV. We can have 18-team conferences. We can do all these amazing things. We can have NIL because of how much money there is. People care about it that have so much money. It's silly. It's completely different than any sport in college sports for sure. It's starting to get closer and closer to the NBA. It'll probably be something like the NBA in terms of money for TV rights. Who knows? Maybe it's even there already. I don't know exactly what the numbers are. It's professional football, and time waits for no man and no program. Just because we've been in the Big Ten from the beginning, don't mean we're going to stay in the Big Ten forever. The Pac-12, teams that have been in the Pac-12 since the beginning, now there's two.
They're on an island by themselves right now, Washington State and Oregon State.
Didn't even see it. Came out of nowhere. They finished one season thinking we want to play in the Pac-12. We want to win the Pac-12. To the next season, wait a minute. Every team's gone out of the conference. Now our head is spinning. That can happen at the drop of a hat. And the fans play such a big part of it. We go out and we get Washington, we get UCLA, we get at USC, and we get Oregon because they're super popular and their stadiums are awesome. UCLA stinks as a program. Gutter. Makes Indiana look like the Kansas City Chiefs. They haven't been good in forever. But they've got fans that believe. They've got fans with a lot of pride. They have a bunch of people that watch the game. They have a bunch of people that go to the game.
Do they? I don't know that they fill the Rose Bowl very well. I guess we'll see in a few weeks, but
it's a program with proud tradition.
Yeah.
They have in the past. Now, whether they do now or not, I don't know the answer to that. But that's a program with really proud fans. That's why you go out and get them. They're going out and getting teams like that so they can start getting rid of some teams that don't have that. And it doesn't happen really anywhere else.
We'll wrap this up here in a second. I don't know that the Big Ten is planning to remove teams. The only thing I fear in the future, and I don't know that I truly fear this, but the only other thing I could see happening is if either the Big Ten or the SEC started poaching teams from the other super conference. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I could potentially see happening in the future. In Indiana, unless it's the Big Ten poaching from the SEC, which I doubt, Indiana's not going to be one of the first and probably would be one of the last taken if the SEC was poaching teams from the Big Ten.
Well, you've got a couple other conferences that are going to get eaten up is the thing.
That's the Big 12 and ACC will go first.
They're going to get eaten up. And the Big Ten is trying to get national. They don't have any teams in Florida. They're going to go down there and try to get Miami. They're going to try to get Florida State. They're going to try to poach someone like a Georgia Tech, get something in Georgia. They're going to try to do all kinds of things. And this isn't going to be a conference with 30 teams. It just doesn't work. So somebody's going to have to go. You may not see it now, but think about how quickly everything changes in college football. You have to start understanding as a fan how important you are, because this is not your mom and dad's college football. It just isn't. This is business. This is dollars. It is all dollars. It is driven by the almighty dollar. What have you done for me lately, Indiana? You just had a really confident, dominant win against an FIU team. You had a really full stadium, and then I take a picture in the second half, and I think there's 10 people in the stands. That looks really bad on TV. Really bad. Advertisers, they don't like that. They want beautiful images to show. We need people in the stands.